What's up, guys? Welcome to virtual class. Hold on, I'm just setting some stuff up. And then we're going to get into it. Let me pull up the questions before we get into this. Where would it be? Downloads. First of all, delete these. Second of all, delete these. What the heck are these? Definitely delete that. I don't even remember what that is. Okay. Of course, it would pop up on the other side. Let me get our notes already. Here we go. Nice. Putting the chat over to the side. All right. Okay, then I can delete that. Oh, what did I do? Oh my gosh. I literally have like massive notes here, and I like off screen you guys can't see, and I almost deleted all of them. Thank goodness for Google Docs, and I will get better. Don't do that. If this is the start of how today's gonna go, bear with me. Okay. All right. Bear comes up
Hello.
first. What's up, Bear?
I can confidently say I don't have any questions this week.
Dang, good job.
Although I really love Wally, so I'm really excited that we get to make Eva. But
Good impression.
I did like when I was like sort of I went back and watched some of the video from YouTube from the part 1, and seeing the way like she was constructed and stuff, and how her face is reflected on the object, it kind of made me like, I don't know if you've seen that old show, Higglytown Heroes, but it literally reminded me of like how the nesting dolls were kind of made in that show. And I was thinking, like, is that how their faces are reflected on the objects? Like I was just like, it kind of like put in, like, made me realize that moment, like having to do Eve. I was like, are we doing CGI? Like, is this like basic learnings of CGI? Like, because I'm like, that's crazy. I didn't realize that until
You could project
realizing
it,
how
yeah.
her face was reflected onto the object. Like, how it was just like, wait, we're doing CGI. Like, this is crazy. But
It's like
but yeah,
kind of,
that's
I
all.
mean, everything that
Hello.
we're doing here is essentially CGI because computer generated uh graphics, really, like computer graphics. CGI uh it sorry, I'm just pulling up this Higglytown Hero things so that I can see kind of what they look like. But you know, CGI stands for computer generated images. So like, I mean, that's what we're doing all through class. We're doing like CGI stuff, but this is just one way that you can project a face onto an object. There, like, if there's, I've never seen this show. I am from like the I'm from the Barney slash Teletubbies era, so I didn't have shows like this growing up. But They could have done this. I'm not sure. Let me look at this real quick. This is possibly a way that they could have animated the faces on, like animated them inside of something like After Effects and just projected it onto the characters. And then if the characters move their head, you know, the obviously that'll move with it. So it's just one technique to use to animate facial expressions onto something. And you can remember that you can like essentially project video or images onto anything that you would put into Cinema 4D. Um but yeah, it's a really cool, it's a great way to do it for Eve. I don't think in the movie. Let me pull that up real quick. Goodness. Yep, this is how it's gonna go. My fingers they're going wild. Hold on. First of all, I love Wall-E too. It's probably one of, you know, it's like, it's funny because it's a movie that has very little dialogue in it. And yet they achieve so many, like, so many different emotions just by, and essentially like animating Wally's, the rotations of his, you know, these are like binoculars, right? So the rotations of his eyes and his eyebrows and really just like slumping his body and stuff like that. And so you can see through this movie really how you can express a lot of emotion, and you know, there's a lot of physical communication that happens between people. Now, inside of Eve, I think she has, like, if we were to extrude a little bit of an area out for her face here, because obviously this is a different texture. So there might have been different ways that they actually did it, because it's kind of got, if you look here, it's got like volume to it, versus the one that we're doing does not have a volume really to it. So, because there's like this inset section. Let me turn on my zooming. The zooming on here. You know, she's got like this section here is inset, but right, this could be clear and there might be something on the inside that they're still projecting this animation onto, and then there's like this over top of it. So there's different, you know, there could be different ways. I could try and look into that further on how she was actually built. But yeah, I mean, it's just compositing, right? That's essentially what we're doing here. We're just compositing an image on top of a 3D model. But yeah, it's a really cool way to, in a really quick way, to do something like that. And if you were to do it inside of After Effects instead of in Illustrator, right? I did it in Illustrator because we kind of had limited time on there. But if you were to, let me open up After Effects real quick, see if we can get this done. If you were to do it in After Effects, you could animate the blink, right? You could create a, and okay, let me show you guys real quick here too, because this will show you how to, I might have to look into how to project a video onto a 3D model. Let's say we make a new composition, 1920, 1080. Fine. We'll just make like, we'll make a circular shape and say it's her. Let's do a solid black. No stroke. Cancel. No stroke. Right. Center this. Create an eye. That's not bad. That's like a perfectly alien type of shape. We'll change it to blue. Rotate it slightly. Say like 15 degrees. Right, and then let's say that you guys know how to animate a path, right? So you could essentially... why can't I find convert to shapes? I don't know why I'm doing this. Create. It's because I'm in the wrong spot. Ellipse, right click. Path, right click, convert to Bezier path, right? And then you guys could animate a blink. Wow, this is a really long composition. Let's put it like 5 seconds, 3 seconds. All right. You know, blinks kind of happen fast, but let's say I'm just going to do it quickly here, by the way. Go in there, just select this one, kind of go down there, shift. You guys get the point, right? Closing that up. It's going to be a really crappy blink because it's going really fast. All right, and then copy paste. And I'll just shorten the timeline so it repeats. You know, and you'd ease it and stuff. But if you create a video like this and then a looping animation, right? You could, or an animation that's the same length as your composition inside of Cinema 4D, you can, here is a different way of rendering out a composition with an alpha channel, right? Because so far we've only done MP4s and none of them have alpha channels. And because MP4s can't contain an alpha channel, only .mov files can. And unfortunately, you can't control that inside of the Adobe Media Encoder. You have to go inside of the render queue, which is this is the built-in rendering system inside of After Effects. It's not, the nice thing about the render queue is you can render multiple things at once. But here you cannot necessarily do that. So if you want to render something with that alpha chain in there, you have to do it through the render queue. So again, that's up in composition, composition, add to render queue, not to the media encoder, but to the render queue. And then you go where it says your output mode, and you're going to click on that. And under QuickTime, that's what we want. But for some reason, it won't show up with the alpha channel right here because we need RGB plus alphas. So it shows all of our colors and our images, and we want to add that alpha channel. And we don't just want the alpha channel or just the RGB. And it's not going to default to that. So you just have to, I just go up one and then go back to QuickTime. And then this will show up, and you'll select that, and you hit OK. And then you go to the output 2 section, and you click where it says not yet specified. And then you find the area that you want it to be. Like I'll save it to comp 1. I'll hit save. I'll click render here. It'll render. It'll make a noise when it's all done there. And then it should be on my desktop. Right. Did it not go to my desktop? Is that not where I sent it? Has to be here. Hold on, I'm looking at my other desktop. Maybe I sent it somewhere else. Belle's gonna watch it and she's gonna be like, you sent it to this folder, you turkey. Hold on, let me do it again. I'm gonna find it one day in a really random spot. So again, you guys will just see what I have to do. Add to render queue, high quality. Just change this up one. Put it back down to QuickTime. Because QuickTimes are .mov files. RGB plus alpha, hit OK. We're going to find out right now where it went. Yeah, it should have went to my desktop. I don't know why it's not there. Maybe we'll do it again. Let's put it in downloads, not documents, downloads. My computer, the thing is, PCs can't necessarily play a .mov file. Oh, because it is in here. That's where it went. It went into this Art 184 folder. See, it's going to say we can't open the comp. It's encoded, blah, blah, blah. But then if I bring it into After Effects, some Inception stuff right here, right? Let's go to desktop. Oh, wait, we were in downloads. It should not be there. Never mind. Desktop, GCC, grab that comp. import it as footage because it is footage, and then I were to shut this comp off, shut this both of these layers off, right? And let's throw a background in here so you guys can see that it actually rendered with an alpha channel. Okay, we'll do green. And then I'm going to drag this video into here, and it's like a fully rendered video, so I don't have to animate anything. It's just playing, looping back and forth, and it has that alpha channel. So you can also create your face like this and have some eye animations in there, and then project that essentially onto your Wally or to your Eve face. I'm not going to save that. But that's like another option on how you can animate her facial expressions and how you can like how powerful projection can be onto an object. Let me close that down. But yeah, cool. All right, let's go to the next question. Megan, put them in backwards.
About the motion graphics industry. What are some of the key elements to make a great motion graphic?
Really, the key elements are pretty much what you guys are learning right now is easing, right? And using the 12 principles of animation in your animations. And that's what really, once you get those nailed down, kind of the rest of it follows because you inherently will do those things without even really having to think about it. It's like, drawing. Once you get comfortable drawing and you're good at lighting and drawing, like adding the lighting and shadows and stuff onto your illustrations, then it just inherently comes and you just know how to do it. And so really those 12 principles of animation and learning how to properly ease your motion is really what will set you apart from other animators and other people in the field. Because not everyone's good at that. And that is the one thing we should be good at. All right. Lee?
Hi, Miss Makara. So, looking
Hey,
at
Lee.
this Eve model and rigging thing, do we just have to animate this, like, following the tutorial here, or do we have to animate it doing basically anything?
We are going to animate that today, Lee. Good question. I'm not sure if I wasn't clear on that the first time. I apologize. The last class was for the rigging and modeling. This class we're going to be doing animating. So if I don't finish the lecture on animation, I'll find the spot and I will link that one in there for you guys to watch, where Casey goes over the same things. We're going to go over it the same way, right? Because we're going to be using a different technique to animate. So so we're going to go over that today. And if you want to follow his, you're more than welcome to follow his. And if you want to follow along this video, you can do that as well. But thank you, Lee. And Nick. Oh man, Nick, your audio's off again. Get that audio going so I can see that you did it yesterday. Obviously, your time is on there. So ask me the question because I know you usually have some good questions there for me. So send me the question inside of Canvas and we'll answer that for you. Nolan.
Hi, so my question this week is, so when we were doing the robot arm assignment, I decided that it would be cool to do like a loop where the robot picks the ball up, throws it, and then has the title, and then it ends the same way it started, like that.
That's awesome. Great idea.
I was just curious, just looking at it, is there a better way to make a loop, for this? And are we ever going to do loops? Because I always think loops are kind of cool, because whatever. So yeah, I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, we can integrate more looping if you want to. Actually, that's a good point, Nolan, because looping right now is really popular inside of motion graphics. Obviously, that's what shots and stuff are on. Shorts on YouTube can be looping. GIFs are looping. Then you have, loops on Instagram shots and stuff like that. Those loops in there. If you go follow motion designers on Instagram, like that's the biggest part about it is because it loops the video over and over for you. And so if you can have a seamless loop happening, like people will get stuck on your video and they'll watch it over and over, not even really realizing it. And I think that what you did is a really good idea. I think that it's really cool that it kind of like falls in there. In fact, what you could do is just like an idea to make it a little more interesting is where the ball comes. So you got the ball, the robot coming in, chucking it, and then the robot drives off and the title goes away. You could have the ball bouncing from off screen onto the screen and just settling back in the same exact spot if you want to get a little more complex with it. But I think what you did was a great idea. And we essentially can loop any of the videos that you've done, like the bouncing and stuff. You can loop that. In fact, I have one on my website where it's like an infinite bouncing ball on a trampoline. And it just loops over and over and over again. And I think I made it it's a GIF right here. And it just bounces over and over and over. So if you guys want to, and this right here is just a path animation. Now, when looping, the thing about path animations is they do not loop. And so, you have to use an expression in order to loop a path animation, and it's very complex. In fact, like I just pretty much ripped it off of the internet and didn't write that code myself because it's very complicated code, and I'm literally not a coder. I'm just like, but what's nice is that motion graphics artists and people who do know a little bit more coding will put those as like free sources and stuff online that you can just Google and find. And if you're inside of like Discord, we'll have motion graphics channels that you can be a part of and stuff like that. But any of those ball bounces or like that, the impact one, you could redo that one so it's a looping scene, right? Like where it settles and the ball like maybe like drops back in or something like that. Because this was a cool idea. I like this idea. But you can essentially, if you just rethink some of the projects that we've done, you can make them loops. But if that's something you want to see, we can maybe integrate that in with maybe one of the projects a little later. But good call, Nolan. And hello, Sarah. Welcome back. Brandon.
Hi, I don't have any specific questions about this assignment, but I was just curious how much After Effects is used by big studios like Disney and stuff.
It depends, right? Like a lot of companies will go back and forth between programs. After Effects is used in a lot of film studios for pretty much a majority of them for like any kind of special effects and stuff like that. Animation usually for Disney is now done in 3D programs. So they usually use AutoCAD or they use Autodesk, which is similar to Cinema 4D, but more like I would think character driven. But for this kind of stuff that we're doing, like Cinema 4D is becoming much more popular, I think, than Autodesk programs like Maya and stuff like that. So, it just, I guess, I don't want to say more popular, but there's people who just prefer to use Cinema 4D versus Maya or any of the Autodesk programs. There's like AutoCAD, the one that I mentioned earlier or a second ago on accident, is like for engineers. Engineers will use that too because it's a 1-to-1 ratio for measurements. And so if you're planning out a building, you want it to be exactly what it would be in real life, right? You want the real-time measurements so that people know exactly how to, like when you hand it off to the contractors, they know how to build it. But they use a lot of the programs work with each other. And so they'll go in between and back and forth. And there's teams that will specifically do certain jobs inside of certain programs, right? So there's like a special effects team. For instance, I don't know if you guys saw, and it won like 7 Oscars this year. And it is such a weird movie, and I really enjoyed it. I really like Michelle Yeoh, but Everything Everywhere All at Once, this film, and with Ki Kwan, he's awesome too, and I really like obviously Jamie Lee Curtis. It's her first Oscar she won, which I am surprised by because I think she's awesome. But anyways, this film, the editors that did the special effects, it was like a very small team. Editors, like they didn't need a lot, and they did it all at home. Editing team or the special effects team. Let's look it up. I know there was an article I'd read on it. But they just used After Effects. Check that out. You can literally see Adobe Premiere Pro. They talked about it inside of here. So they use a
Hi, I'm Paul Rogers.
it's called dynamic linking. And that's how the Adobe products work, right? So essentially, that's how you can create something in Adobe Illustrator, bring that Illustrator file into After Effects, and you can update that Illustrator file and it'll still update it in After Effects, right? That's the dynamic linking that happens within the programs. And so that's what they used to create Everything Everywhere All at Once, right? They did it in Premiere, and then they also brought it into After Effects, and they just kind of worked back and forth with like special effects and stuff here. This is a really cool one. Let me put this in the chat on Slack, and then you guys can watch this when you have time. But yeah, interesting. Like, right? They just, working in between. That's why it's important to just generally know how to navigate these programs, and then you can move in between different ones and still essentially know what you're doing, right? So, good question though. Eric.
Hi everyone. So my question for this week was related to the butterfly project that we did a little bit ago. I remember we talked briefly about like using sound effects and music and stuff in like future projects, and I just had a question about that. Like, is there like an industry resource for sound effects and music? The one I'm familiar with is Free to Use Sounds, because it was on, like, it shows up constantly on Instagram. And I know there are others, but I was like, is there like something we need to look out for like a music sound music library?
No.
Stuff like that.
There's
Okay.
yeah, I know.
Bye.
It's kind of, hey Eric. Hello. It's kind of depending on what you guys want and can really find. The biggest thing is that it has to be Creative Commons sound or like free to use audio. Or else the problem is, like, I mean, if it were just me, I wouldn't really care if you used music from artists as long as you like credited them, right? But like, if you were to put this up on social media later, that's where it can become an issue. And I don't want you guys getting copyright stricken, right? Where they're like, oh, we can't play your video now, and then you can't show any of your work on any of your social platforms. So it's really important to find those. Now there are some Adobe has stock account. Adobe stock images. We'll just pull it up like this. Unfortunately, it does not come with our school account. I don't know if you guys could call and get like some kind of school discount on assets for this, but it comes with photos, illustrations, videos or stuff. Well, the videos are depending on what you're paying for, right? Because videos, unfortunately, it's a credit based subscription. So like the videos will be like 30 credits for one video or something like that. But they have audio here. They do have some free stuff. You might be able to look here for some audio, free videos, free photos, food, background. These are vector stuff. So you might be able to find some free audio on here. They just partnered with Epidemic Sound, which is like, I think they produce a lot of really good beats and stuff to be able to use. So if you guys wanted to pay for something, you might be able to do this. As far as, I would just type Creative Commons music. There's audio. Royalty-free music. Some things they make you sign up for accounts, right? Looks like sometimes they make charge you. It just kind of depends. YouTube obviously has like a library that you can use. Legal music for videos. This looks like it tells you where you can get that kind of stuff. So I've never been to any of these. I've never been to any of these sites, but you can just kind of Google Creative Commons audio or music. Ooh, Epidemic Sound. We use cookies. Oh man, you're gonna make me do that. Strictly necessary. I'm never like you can have all my info. But like you can find stuff on here that might be for free. It looks like you can get a free trial. So you just kind of have to scour the internet, and then that YouTube library is always available for you too. But I know they're some things are really outdated, and that's what sucks about that. But if you guys reach out to the music department, I did that when I was in school at GCC a while back. And I collaborated with some of the students in the musical department to create a song for a video that we shot on campus. And so that was a way, we just credited them, and they wrote us what we wanted, and we could have it edited and stuff like that. So we could maybe possibly have you reach out to the music department or like students within that department to kind of collaborate, because that's a really good idea, right? And then you make friends with people in different areas, and then you always have those connections. So let me know if you guys want to do that. But Asia.
Hello.
What's up,
So
Asia?
for my question this week, I was wondering if for other animation programs that we might not have explored, and we probably won't learn in this class, if the whole process of like keyframing and speed and like frames per second, if that's like a universal kind of thing that can be learned through a different animation programs.
Yes, correct.
Or if it's very specific to each program. So that's kind of just what I'm wondering. But yeah. Thank you.
The questions, the keyframing. Well, in general, most animation, it depends, right? If it's doing the in-betweens and the keyframes, if you're setting keyframes, then yes, keyframing is. Easing, your 12 principles of animation, like the easing inside of the 12 principles of animation, it's not necessarily called easing, they just call it slow in, slow out. So that's the same thing. It's the same thing as easing your keyframes. It's just like a different terminology for it, but that is the same, right? Like if you're working in a frame by frame type of program, i.e. Adobe Animate, or like if you're working inside of Procreate and you're doing hand-drawn animation in there, or there's like Flip Studio and stuff like that you can use. The same concept applies, right? Drawing that grid that we drew out when we did the hand-drawn ball, right? Drawing out a similar kind of pacing to it. And then you would do, here, let me see, 12 principles of animation. And then you would do either a pose to pose or a straightforward type of animation, right? Let me pull it up. Let me see. Okay, cool. This is a good source right here. Right? But it's all the same. Squashing and stretching that we've learned, right? That is applied to any animation program that you're going to use. Anticipation. Anticipating a move. Same thing. Staging. Staging is essentially just like how you set up your scene, right? Like if you want someone to pay attention to a character's expressions, you want to have a tighter shot, closer and focused on the face, versus like big, large, wide motions, right? Like if someone's doing karate, you don't want it to be a tight shot on their face unless you want to pay attention to their expression. If you want to pay attention to their movements and their motion, then you have that wide shot, and that's kind of what staging is. And then there's the straight ahead and pose to pose, which is essentially like you're drawing. So you draw straight ahead is like I draw a circle, I draw the next circle, I draw the next one. That's kind of how we did that is exactly how we did the hand-drawn animated ball. A pose to pose is where you draw the first section of it, the middle section of it, and then the last like motion, right? And then you fill in the spaces in between. But you essentially, it's the same concepts. You just apply them to all of your animations, whether it's hand-drawn, whether it's using keyframes inside of something that does all the work for you, really, or like the computer generates that kind of stuff, or 3D work. It doesn't matter. We're just applying all the same principles and concepts. Brian.
Hey, so my question for the week is this project right here, the modeling and rigging. So I haven't watched Tuesday's live stream yet. I am going to go back and do that.
You better. I'm just going
to... for right now, I was curious.
Like
I know you said here we have a little bit of customization with the design of the robot, but do we have any customization over the video itself? Like do you want the camera to be locked in this position here?
We're going to talk about the camera.
The thumbnail. Do you want the movement, the animation to be the same? Like what all can we do and what all should we
if you can apply if you feel like you're at a place where you can apply a different motion and you understand the concepts of what I'm teaching you, right? Like today I'm going to go Eve's going to fly in on screen. She's going to hover for a second. She's going to look around a minute, and then she's going to fly off screen. And so we'll be locked into a camera angle. Obviously, we're not going to be switching cameras in this class. That's more you'll learn that more if you get into a different 2D class. But I mean, you don't have to copy my exact motions. You can do it yourself, and I'll show you. You're gonna see we're gonna use a different way to animate called Cappucino today. And I know it's a really stupid name. All of the animation, like Cinema 4D, used to name all their stuff after coffee, and I don't know why they haven't phased that out yet. But we're gonna learn a different way to kind of reverse engineer animating and messing around with the graph. So if you can do something similar, you can customize the way she moves if you want to. And if you just apply the general principles that I teach you, I'll be okay with that. But I do want her to like fly on screen and do some kind of thing in the middle and then fly off screen, right? Make sure though that if you're going to veer off of the course that you do it right. And then I think you asked. I would stick to the same design, this similar idea of the design of what Eve looks like, right? But you can have fun with like the face a little bit more. So this one's a little more stuck to I mean, yeah, I would stick to the design as close as possible with this one. And like you can mess around with the eyes and make the eyes look a little different if you want. And then It was more the first robot that I was talking about, but yeah. As long as you do it right, I'm not going to dock you points, right? For creativity and stuff. Good question though, Brian. Yvette. Ooh. There we go.
Hello.
Let me drop it down. What's up, Yvette?
For this participation grade, it would be for the robot arm. Due to me being sick, I wasn't able to finish it on time, but I am getting it done slowly. Right now, I'm getting the hang of the whole animation so far. The only thing I struggled with in the beginning was the pairing of the claws here, so they both open at the same time when I rotate one of them. I guess I skipped a step during the video where I'm supposed to pair the rotations to one another. So I was able to somewhat figure it out. For some odd reason, when I do parent link, it moves the object slightly to the left or to the right. It doesn't. I don't know why it does that.
That is so odd.
That's a little frustrating, but other than that, I think that's all I'm struggling with for now.
I'm curious as to
almost done with it, just not quite. So yeah.
If you have time of it, can you show me what you're talking about? But that it slightly moves things to the left or the right, because when you parent something, it shouldn't move anything at all, unless you're making sure your anchor points are in the correct spot to begin with. So I would check to make sure your anchor points are. I noticed right now that you're selected onto the ball section, and your anchor point is up here where it should be in the center of the ball. So, double check all of that, right? Because where the anchor points are is very important when it comes to rigging and i.e. parenting, right? So check that out and let me know if you still have an issue, and then we'll try and figure out what's going on with that for you. Jessica.
Hello. Say we want to make a small detail like making Eve's eyes move or blink for the animation. Is it possible to make the eyes move in Cinema 4D, or does it stay the way it is because it's an image on Eve's head?
Yeah, that's funny because I went over that at the beginning, so I hope you get that. You watch that section, Jessica, because that answers it for you. And then let me look at. I wonder if you can drop a video file into Eve's. I think I kept that one, didn't I? I did not. Hold on, let me go to my trash and see if I can recover it. Restore. Let's try this out. Let's see if it works with the video. And then if it does, you guys can always do that. Okay, so we have Eve here. And this, let's go right here. Let's see if it works. Ha! Does it work? Okay, and then we put it in the alpha channel too. Let's rotate it around. Let's see. Let me undo that. Let me try and find a... Oh, come on, mouse. I think it's going to die soon. I hope not, but... How to project a video onto an object C40. I know it's possible. How to use the video as a texture. Here's one that talks about how to do that. Compositing 3D characters and objects into video footage. Add 3D objects to video footage. Nope, nope, nope. So one here, here's a few seconds long.
With Miro, you can show your team.
Not just tell them.
Miro is a shared canvas on which your entire team...
So it looks like you have to create... Oh, man. It's kind of loud. Anyways, so... Skip to this. This was a few years ago, so it might be different. Yeah, inside the color. Upload an image. Load an image. Yeah, so you can watch different you can watch different Hey Sarah, real quick, is this live stream, did it start late for you or something? Because I started at 6, but when I just looked at the live stream playing, it's like only, I've been streaming for almost an hour and it's only like, I think like 10 minutes in on there. Let me know where you're at, or when you get this message, write something inside of the chat so I know if there's like a massive delay happening. Anyways, yeah, so there's a video. I can watch that and we can find out how to do that. Invalid license. That's because I was on my laptop earlier. Let's activate that real quick. One second, you guys. Oh, come on now. Yeah, I'll look that up so we can work on, we can put in there. It won't let me do anything until I sign in. That's the only thing that sucks about the student license. I wish it would allow for more than one computer, but whatever. You know, we get it for basically free, so I'm not going to complain that like at all, really. O'Reilly's Auto Parts. Hey. Yeah, I know you want me to. There we go. Are you going to work now? Okay. There we go. Sweet. Okay. Yeah, so normally you would drop it into here. I feel like it should work. There might be another channel you have to drop that into, so I'll look up some stuff, watch that video, and then I'll let you guys know. Final question of the night. Kaylee.
Hi, so my question for the week, I'm basically kind of stuck on the beginning as of right now. So when you made the segments 2, 2, and 2, and then you dropped it into the
subdivision,
the subdivision layer, it gave you all these different polygons, but when I did it, and let me just redo it real quick. So
way to go, Kaylee, like to catch that and like to redo it. This is great. This is what I want to see.
2, 2. And then I drag it. Drag it in. and then it really smooths it out, and then I press C. But mine doesn't show up as many polygons to select.
You have to
the UL like yours does.
It's only two
and
sections.
I keep rewatching the video, and I feel like I'm missing something.
Yeah,
so,
it's okay. So
yeah,
what you're seeing,
and then
what you're seeing on mine when I did that was the following. Let me create a cube. I'm increase the segments here. 2, 2, 2. Let's shut everything. Let's just kind of solo this if I can. Or let's just move it up. Object mode. E. Let's move it over. Let's go look at that. Also, remember, I had my garage shading with lines on. And so that is up here, remember, in display. N is in Nancy, B is in boy. If you click that, it'll show all your lines. So I have two segments here. I then took this cube and I made it editable, hitting C. And then I go and drop it into a subdivision surface. And that's how I believe that I have all of these options to select. See, it's just showing me the mesh, right? All these little squares right there I can't select them. It's just showing me the mesh of the object, right? Because if I'm to select the subdivision surface and increase that, it increases the number of, it's just increasing the divisions, right? So like I have a section, I have a 2 by 2 segments on my 2 by 2 by 2 on my cube total. That's how I manually did it. And then, you know, I make it editable. I bring it into the subdivision surface. And then if I drop this down, right, if I'm not using that subdivision surface, it's at the original. If there's no subdivision happening, it's at 0. And then as soon as I crank it up to 1, you'll see I have 1, 2, 3, 4 by 4, right? Because it takes that section of 2 and it divides it. And then if I divide it again, then it's going to have 8 by 8. And then if I divide it again, it's going to be 16 by 16. And notice how as it divides more, it gets smoother and smoother and smoother. And so that's, but to see that, you have to type in the, come on now, NB right after each other. So if I were to hit N right now, it's going to pop up a little thing. You can't move your mouse. You just have to hit N and then B. It's going to hide it. It'll make sure it's turned on for me. But if I wanted those lines to go away, I just hit N, A, N, B. And that's just how you bring these little lines up. But no matter what, right, it has all of this mesh, but I still only have a 2 by 2 segment of my actual block, of the actual cube. So if I'm going to select that subdivision surface, and then I want to select that object because I want to change like a point here, click and drag and select, or not. Let me try this. Right, if I wanted to select that and then move it, I only have the option to do it 2 by 2. So you would have to increase this if you wanted it to be more. But good question. I'm happy that you watched it. You're almost there, right? You just have to turn on the garage shading with the lines. It's also up here under display and garage shading with lines. It won't show up in your render. Remember that. It's just there for your purposes, for you to be able to see how the mesh works. So if I was using it and I had access to all of those little panels and all those little points, it's because I added more segments to my cube. Not subdivision, but to the actual cube itself. But that was a good question there. All right, you guys, I'm going to close this out. Good job, you guys. I mean, I hope you feel like you're learning stuff in this class. I mean, I would hate to have taught it for this semester and you guys are like, I feel like I learned nothing. I mean, I want that feedback if you feel that way, because I definitely want you guys to feel like you're leaving here with some kind of knowledge. But from what I see, you guys are understanding it. You know, and like I said, this is my first time teaching this class solo, and so far, Casey, who's been really the only instructor in animation, he's been really busy. I mean, because he's the only animation instructor, he gets swamped with a ton of work. And so his ability to like update classes every year gets harder and harder. But like if there's things you want me to start integrating into these classes, like I'm more than happy to. And then you guys can always watch these classes later because you have my YouTube channel, right? I'm not just going to stop giving you guys access because you're done with the class. You can watch any of these videos at any time. So as I start teaching this class more and more, I'll be integrating more and more and different techniques in here that you guys can, you know, watch. Look at that. That's Miss Sky. Okay. So let me do something real quick in here inside of my studio before we start. I'm going to make this backdrop bigger, especially this height. Increase that height and the width. Let's do like 15,000. So I just don't even have to worry about it. The depth we'll do like 4,000. Nah, that's too. We'll do 2,000. That's good. I think that looks okay. Wow, that is long. But this way I'm not having to worry about my shot as much and like making sure. I will change the focal length actually. Let me undo that. And the only thing I want to change is the height. Backdrop. Let's try 2,000. There we go. That'll work. Maybe the width slightly. We'll just do, the width is 4,000 centimeters. We'll do 6,000. So it's a little bit longer. Okay. Anyways, let's talk about animation and kind of how we're going to start to do this. So, some students have an easier time like understanding the correlation of the between the way the graph editor looks and the motion that's occurring on screen. And I'm going to show you guys a different way to animate this Evebot using a tool that can help to like build that correlation for students who might be struggling with looking at the graph and connecting it to how the motion occurs inside of or with your objects, right? And it allows you to kind of reverse engineer that motion in a way. And if you take so it's almost like learning visually, right? Like, so if you were to take your hands and I tell you to bounce a ball with your hands, right? You intrinsically, you know, drop the ball down fast and then your hand comes up slow and it stops at a point and then you go down fast, right? With the deceleration and acceleration, like it automatically happens. You don't really have to think about it. You just know how a ball bounces and you could emulate that with your hands, right? Well, that's not always clear on how it's going to look like on the graph. And so there's some tools that you can use in both After Effects and in Cinema 4D that allow you to do this. And inside of, we're not going to talk about this After Effects one today. Since we're in Cinema 4D, we're going to be working that one. But the one inside of Cinema 4D, and this is good to put in your notes because you'll want to remember it. It's called Cappucino, and they actually spell cappuccino wrong because it should have 2 C's after the U, but it only has 1. Like, realistically, that's literally how you spell cappuccinos, with 2 C's, but I don't know why they spelled it incorrectly in here, but it's spelled wrong. And this, I spelled it their spelling so that you guys know, but it is called Cappucino. And then inside of After Effects, it's the same thing essentially, but it's just called Motion Record, I believe. And what these do is it's essentially mocap. And mocap stands for motion capture, right? When you see like in Avatar movies or any of the films where they're replacing like the person with a CGI stuff, right? It's motion capture, right? They have to wear those suits with like the dots on it and the cameras in their face, or they have like the ping pong. It's like what they use for video games, right? To capture the motion of a body. But that's full body motion capture. I think we actually, I believe Casey mentioned that last semester that we actually have a suit on campus that can do that. Yeah, because he said it was really tight. So, which makes me it's been a day, folks, but it makes me laugh thinking about that. And then I'm also like a little weirded out because I'm like, I don't want to put on an outfit that everyone else has put on, but you know, we're not a studio with millions of dollars to spend, so we can't just buy motion capture suits for everyone. But that's what mocap is, right? And these tools inside of Cinema 4D, i.e. Cappucino, and After Effects, i.e. Motion Record, emulate mocap. But we don't do it with a full body suit. Instead, we use our mouse to create that motion, right? So however we move our mouse is going to be how the object moves. And let me demonstrate that for you. So I'm going to bring in let's bring in something else here. Let's bring in a sphere. I'm going to move that up, bring that over in front to us a little bit more. You know, there's lights here. I'll move it back so we can see it with the lights on it. But if I hit Shift C and I just type in cap, it'll say Mocha too next to it, but you just hit enter and it'll bring up this like window panel. And these little 3 lines are called hamburger menus. I feel like everyone who named any kind of thing inside of a software, like design software, had to name it after at some point food. And I mean, I love hamburgers, but it just makes me laugh. The buns and the meat. I understand why, but it just makes me giggle. Anyways, so if you select that hamburger menu right there, the hamburger thing, you can take this and you can dock this this panel, right? Because it normally will just pop up, and then if you click off of it, you got to find it. It's annoying. So just dock it to the side of your software. And if I take this ball and I bring it's all dependent on where your playhead is, right? So I want to bring that to the beginning of my playhead. And then I hit start real time. It's not automatically going to start recording, but if I start to move this ball, it is going to record it, and it's going to record it in the same way that I moved it. So then if I hit play, notice that it's still got kind of that jerky motion, but it's how I moved it, right? So if I wanted it to, if I hit Z and shut that off and stop playing and bring this back, and I wanted it to look like a bounce, right? I could just kind of emulate that motion real quick, like boing, boing, boing. And then I'd hit start real time. And then as soon as I click on here and start moving it, it's going to record. So I click and I'm like doing, doing. And then I play it back. And then it's gonna add that animation for me. Now, it's recording this into keyframes, but it's a frame by frame. Notice all of these little dots that are here, right? Those are all the keyframes that you see on screen. And then as soon as I bring up my F curve menu, increase this. Let's make this bigger. Nope. So that you guys can see what I'm talking about. And I select the sphere and we drop down and I only move the Y position and I hit H. Remember, H is the thing that you guys need to remember here. Hitting that shortcut when you cannot see your curve is extremely important. Let me make sure I'm still live because I would hate to not be live right now. I would just lose my mind. No, I'm still alive. Okay. I just haven't heard anything for my question. Anyways, Where was I? So you can see that it recorded all of my motion in a frame by frame manner, right? Like every little spot that I hit, it recorded that motion. And you can see, right, the general look of how this should move. The easing that should happen. It looks almost like a bounce, right? It's not perfect. And that's kind of, that's where this technique doesn't work, right? Because there's obviously way too many keyframes happening here, and it needs a lot of cleaning up and it needs a lot of finessing, but it's a great way to reverse engineer and to see how that motion should look like on the graph. Thankfully, inside of Cinema 4D, there is a way to clean up these keyframes, right? And so we're going to select all of these keyframes. And we are going to go under Functions, right there. And under Functions, make sure you're selected on all those keyframes. There is a section that says Simplify. And when Simplify pops up, there's 2 different areas you can put numbers in. There's the value and the time, right? And so let me put in, let's try this one. Let's try 5 and 3. 5 under value, 3 frames. 3 or 4. And then I hit OK. Notice how it like cleans up and takes out a ton of those keyframes. Right? And now, if I were to have all of those selected and I right click, right, because it's still straight lines. There's still very straight lines that are happening in between each keyframe, which we don't want, right? We want it to be eased. We don't want it to be, essentially this is kind of like what's happening right here. And we don't want this to happen. We want it to be nice, smooth lines in between. And so with these selected, if you right click on that keyframe and you go to key interpolation and you click soft, it's easing that. It's easing that motion. So I'm going to go in there and you're going to notice that when I do that, you're going to get all of these Bezier handles, right? That I can take and I can smooth out the motion if I wanted to. This is crazy looking. That was insane because they're all selected, right? But if I were to, like, let's say I wanted to smooth this one out and I just go like this and I hold down shift and I can smooth that section out and more and more and more, right? Now you have the ability to edit it and make it look a lot smoother. Now, would I keep all of these keyframes? Definitely not. I still think there's a lot of keyframes here. In fact, the one thing that I would do is I would delete keyframes that are not either at the top, at the peak, or the valley, at the very, very bottom part of this. So I would probably delete these. I would probably delete most of these, if not all of them. I delete this one because I'm going to use this one as my main one. All right, I'm going to bring that out there. Look how all of a sudden I'm getting what I'm kind of looking for, right? And then if I wanted to, let me, don't turn that on. Escape out of there. I think holding down, not control, like 1, 2. Yeah, you can zoom out. If I hold down 1, 2 and like move my mouse and stuff, I can change the way it looks. But right, like I would delete, I'd most likely delete these 2, probably this one, smooth this one out, and you guys can see where I'm going with this, right? So this is a great way to reverse engineer that motion, see how the curve should look, and then edit it at this way. Granted, it needs a lot of finessing and stuff. It's a great way to do it if you're not understanding that motion right off the bat. And so let me go ahead and delete this. Let's apply this concept to Eve, right? So let's start off just kind of by reviewing what we have. We have Eve built. She's fully rigged up, right? We have the body here with the head, the arms, everything's moving or everything's connected. The hierarchy is appropriate. And we have our scene built here. We've got the lights, we've got the studio backdrop. I want to make her, like I said earlier, she's going to fly onto the screen. She's going to hover for a second, and then she's going to fly off, and she's going to see something, and then she's going to fly off in that direction to go towards whatever it is she's seeing. So let me zoom in on her. Let's kind of move it to there. And there was one thing I wanted to say. I'll get to it in a second. Let's just kind of start with this. So let's look at our project settings real quick. We'll hit Control D here, and down in the bottom, make sure, see, normal, mine's set to 30 FPS. I don't want that. So I'm going to set it to 24 FPS. Not 124, but 24. Oh my goodness, my Jimmy Deans. They're going crazy today. 24. There we go. And then the project time, I want it 8 seconds, so I'm going to hit 24 multiplied by 8. Hit enter, is 192 frames. Time max. I'll put 192 on there so it matches everything, right? So if I were to hit H here, it won't do it for me yet, but Control D, just make sure that that's appropriate. Let's see the scale. Display. It's not a big deal. Everything looks good to me. Okay. Project settings are good. 24 frames a second. We have 8 seconds or 192 frames. We probably won't use all that time, but we just have it there, and we can cut it short once we render it out, right? We don't have to render everything. It doesn't have to be all the frames. But I do want to make sure, because we're going to be using that Cappucino and we're going to be moving her, but I want to make sure I'm not like clicking anything else. Like I don't want to click the lights. I don't want to click the backdrop. I don't want to click any of that. And so I want to add a protection tag to my studio. And so if I select my studio and then I hit Shift C, let's see if we can type it in here. Protection tag. Cool. Right there. I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to add that protection tag, right? You can see it right there. So then I'm not accidentally clicking on this and moving it when I'm trying to animate. And so we're going to only animate this because the mouse, right? You can't move a mouse in 3 dimensions. You can move it this way and you can move it this way. And those dimensions are X and Y, or it could be Y and Z or X and Z, but it can only move in 2 different coordinates. It's not like I can pick up my mouse, like I have my mouse in my hand right now. It's not like I can pick it up and start moving things around the screen just by moving it in 3 dimensions in the air. It doesn't work like that. Although I did accidentally click something showed up. But like, that's not how a mouse works, right? I can either move my mouse left, or I can move my left and right, or up or down, right? And so I'm going to go into my different views, and I'm going to work in the front view. I'm going to move this up so I can zoom out a little bit here. Oop, I did not want to do that. Shift Control Z. Hold down 1. Move that over so I can kind of see. And then my image in there, I don't want to remove it, but I just want to not see it right now. So I'm going to hit Shift V to bring up the viewport settings, and I'm going to go to the back tab and then just increase the opacity, the transparency to 90. I won't go higher than 99%. I just don't want to see it really in here. I don't want to be distracted by it. But it does stay, and it's attached to the project file, right? And I'm going to save, right? Let's incrementally save real quick. Save incremental. And let's move her over to the... Okay, I'm selected on the studio. That's why it's not working. Select her body and make sure you're in object mode. And let's move her over here. Notice her head starts to move a little bit, right? I might move her up a little bit, just a tiny bit, so she's not so close to the ground. And I want to animate her. Let's kind of block this out by, we're going to move the playhead all the way to the beginning, making sure you're selected on her body, because you don't want to select, you do not want to select the subdivision surface or the null. You want to select the body. This is correct. And so I'm going to hit start real time. And I'm going to grab this little, once I grab this, right, it's going to start recording. I'm going to grab this. In fact, let's stop the real time real quick. Let's make sure that this is, let's undock it here. The end should be preview project. Should be more than 72. Start at current time. What scale rotation? Yeah, that's fine. If you don't want to accidentally change anything else, you can unmark the scale and the rotation and just keep the position, or vice versa, right? Like if we were just doing rotation, you could do that. It should go through the entire thing. So if it doesn't, then we'll try and update that. But let's put it here for a second, and then I'm going to move it back to there. Okay. So I'm gonna just kind of quickly show you what I want to do with this. She's gonna fly in here, she's gonna hover for a second, and then she's gonna fly off screen, right? And I can already tell you that my mouse, I want to move her a little bit closer. Let's make sure that she's not on screen. If I go into my 4 views, she's not showing on the screen in this section here, so that's good. Let's go back into my front view, and let's do this. So I'm going to hit start real time, making sure I'm at the beginning of the thing, and then I'm going to bring her in. I'm going to kind of hover for a second, and I'm going to go off screen. All right, and then I'm going to play that back. Just going to hover for a second. She's going to zip off screen. She stopped a little bit there, and that's because I had a hitch when I was... let me redo it, because I don't like how crazy chaotic that is right there. Let me stop this. Let's move that back. Let's do it again. Start real time. We're going to select Eve, her body. Select her body, yada yada. We're going to fly in here. We're going to do a little bit of this. And then we're going to fly off screen. I just wanted it to look a little bit smoother in that center part. So we're going to... She stopped a little there. We'll change that. I can redo that. I don't like it. I'm going to do it one more time. Start real time. She's going to... No, 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 no. Start real time. Go in here. She's going to do that, and then she's going to fly off. All right. I'm not doing it again. And so let's move into our regular view so we can see what this looks like. So Eve is going to do exactly what I said. She's going to hover there. Notice her head is moving, right? Because she's looking at that protection tag that we have, the look target that we created. So she's, as I move her and wiggle her around, she's looking at that. But it's obviously not that great. And we saw a lot of keyframes kind of happening there. So let's clean this up. Let's pause it. Let's bring the playhead back to the beginning. We're going to select the body. We're going to select the positions. Hold down Shift and select all 3 of the positions. We want all of them, right? Because we have the X, the Y, and the Z. And we are going to hit H, so it brings them all into view. And again, if you hold down 2 and you click, if you're holding down 2 on the keyboard and you click and drag, you can bring it in much tighter, either in vertical or horizontal space. And you can see more or less of what's happening that way, but I'm just going to hit H to center everything. And I'm going to grab all of these keyframes. Grab all of the keyframes, right? Including these ones down here. And I am going to go to Functions and Simplify. And let's put 1 and 6. Let's try that value. Nice. Okay, much better. right? Now we have a smoother motion happening here. If I play it, it's a little bit smoother, right? There's obviously some hitches and stuff in there, but we can work with this. It's much better and much easier to work with than what we were seeing before. Sometimes what will happen, right? You guys obviously saw that it changed in real time for me. And sometimes when you go through and you select all of the keyframes and you hit simplify, it's not going to show, and this has happened in the class before, where it doesn't show the keyframes updating when you simplify it. And if that happens, just hold down 2 and reframe the curve and it'll properly show up. It's just like a little glitch that sometimes occurs. But now we have to go and we have to smooth this motion out. And so I'm going to select all of these again, including this one at the end. And I'm going to right click on these and key interpolation to soft so that it smooths them all out. And let's go in there and kind of delete some of these. Let's just look at the X position right now. Hit H. So we're there. And we're going to see it's going to move. This is the left to right. It's kind of moving. It's a little herky-jerky. Let's play it. Over here. There's a section over here. Let's just kind of smooth this out a little bit. Let's maybe move this down. Maybe delete some of these keyframes that we don't need in here. All right, this one. We don't want to delete too many over in this area where she does her hovering, right? Because she should be a little bit more random motion. I want to slow this down so it's not so fast. So I'm going to take these and kind of drag them out. Notice it only happened over 80 keyframes, right? So I didn't even, it's not like it happened over the whole 192 frames. But I'm just going to drag this out a little bit. Remember, wherever I drag this to, it's going to stop at that spot too. So I might even just delete that keyframe. Let's bring that one in here. Bring that one down, right? I'm really smoothing this out at this point. And so let's just look at that. Much better. Let's smooth this out a little bit more. Let's drag out these keyframes. We'll drop this down. Notice what my curve starts to look like, right? It's almost starting to look like an S curve. Where, remember, where it's starting to get flat is where things are staying the same. Might even delete that so it just does stay the same in that section. Let's see how interesting that looks. That's a lot of just up and down. I want to keep that variation in there. Let's just kind of even move that up and move this part down. So she goes up and down a little bit more in this area. Move this section down. I'm sorry, side to side, like a little bit more side to side. I can move this over. Let's play that. It's a little bit too much happening there. So I'm going to go back, smooth this line out a little bit more. Kind of drop that, but have the variation just more subtle. Play the back. That's not bad. Right here, I think this motion happens a little bit too fast. I'm going to bring this down and over. And then smooth this section. Remember, holding down shift, you can smooth only one side of the Bezier curve or shorten them, right? I think this looks good. In general, she's not supposed to be perfect. She's going to do a little hovering and then she's going to move. And then let me do it to the, I'm going to do it to the Y, right? So the Y is a little bit harder. It's the up and down motion that she does. Not bad. Just in general is pretty smooth. I'm going to maybe hold down 2 and zoom in here a little bit more. If I zoom it in, there we go. We can see a little bit more. If you zoom it in, right, I held down 2 and I went up and down with my mouse. And notice how it zooms in a little bit more here. Now you can really see where the where the up and down is happening, right? Because she's right here, she's moving up, and then she's going to go down. So I'm going to delete this keyframe right there. I'm going to bring this one over a little bit and smooth that motion out. Then this one, I might delete this one. Actually, I'm going to delete this one. Grab this, kind of move that over here. And then she's going to slowly go out and up, right? Out and up. This one I might move over a bit to kind of even out the timing. Might even delete this one right here. Move this one over. Kind of create more of a smoothing curve right here. Take this one, do this, and maybe this one. Move like this. Much smoother than initially what I had, right? And so this looks really good. I'm going to save it. Now, the only thing is that it's only in the X and the Y, and we need some Z values added in there. And so I am going to add those Z coordinates. Now, the one thing that I do want to mention here, right, is that it is very important, because when I play this back, you do notice that her head follows that target. It's always looking at this look target right here. She never doesn't look at it. She's always looking, even when she flies off, she's looking, right? Now, if that look target, when you go to animate, if this is inside of your subdivision surface, like the nesting in here, or inside of your null, your Eve null, or anywhere near the body or anything like that, she will not look at that target, because these are two separate objects. Remember, they have to be separated. If they are not, it will not work. She will not look at that, and you won't have that separated, because it's automatically rotating her head, right? And so we'll change that a little bit later on in class, but that's very important to make sure that before you do all of this, that is on the outside of her body. And it's on the outside of the subdivision surface. It should be its own object. And so we're going to select that body again, and let's like move her into Z space a little bit. So because our Z space is nothing on there, let's kind of select the Z. There's no real keyframes in there for her. We're going to go into the beginning, and I am going to bring this over. We're really done using the Cappucino. It was really more to get the X and Y coordinates on there, and then after that, we don't have to worry about it so much. I'm going to do it from this view. Then I'm going to just kind of move my view. I don't have a camera in here, remember, so I can just move my view how I want. She does her little loop-de-loop. So right here, I'm going to move her back. And we'll start kind of back over here. Let's select this and go to coordinates, right? And we have to keyframe that, record that Z coordinate. And then right about, we see her kind of coming forward. Let's move her. Actually, let's not from here. Let's move this playhead. Let's move it to where she's like hovering. Let's start there. Where she starts to hover. We're going to keyframe that position, and then we're going to move back to where that keyframe is right there, and we're going to move her back now. Move her back. So she's going to, but I did not record it, right? So go to that one. Don't do that. Go here, move her back, make sure you're selected on her body, record, right? When it's yellow, it's not recorded. Make sure you're recording it. Record that motion. Now you see that the line is nice and smooth. And then, right, we want her to stay until she starts to fly off. So I'm going to just control drag that keyframe, holding down shift. I want her to stay in the same Z space. And then as soon as she starts to fly off, right about there, I am going to move her forward. And then record that motion. And so now we have some Z space motion happening here. Just going to kind of bring those in a little bit, make it a little bit smoother. Select this one right here. Oop. Shift. I don't know if you don't have, maybe you're not. Keyframe interpolation soft. There we go. There we go. So it's a nice kind of quick movement. And now she's going to move in Z space. In fact, I might move this so she's right there. And let's move this. Let's notice how in real time we have this spline changing, right? Because it's quickly happening. If I wanted it to slowly happen, this is faster. Slower is I would do it like this. I would make it look like this, and she would go. That's kind of neat. Let's kind of keep it like that. Let's hit H on here so I can see the entire. And let's kind of emulate that right over here. But opposite, right? Like holding down shift. I'm going to do that. Let's see what that looks like. She's going to hover and kind of go off. In here, maybe we could add that she's going to move back a little bit. We'll record that, making sure you're on her body. Record. Then I'm going to go here, maybe move her forward slightly. Record. So we have a little bit up. Let's go a little bit further back. There we go. Not bad. Okay. So I'm going to incrementally save this right now. And I went and smoothed those out. So we simplified it. We went in, we created the Z coordinates. We smoothed those out. We went into the Y. We simplified the curve. We deleted any keyframes that we didn't want. Remembering this specifically, don't delete keyframes at the top of the curve or the bottom. Delete the keyframes in between and smooth the rest out, right? This is something that's very important when remembering that. And also remembering to hitting H. When you can't spell, no. When you can't see your curve, hit H. Important. Very important. Important. So you guys aren't like, where the heck is everything? I can't find it. It's there. All right, so then we've got the motion going. Let's add in some body tilting into here. And we don't want her completely like, because we don't want her up and down the entire time. We want her to really be leaning into, we want her to lean into that motion and kind of, when she's hovering here, she might just hover and her body might rotate a little bit. But then when she's flying out, we want her leaning into that motion on the way out as well. And so let me move the playhead. Let's start off where she starts to hover. So probably right about there. Right about there. That's not a bad spot. And we are going to select the body, and we're going to keyframe the rotation. 0, 0, 0. Let's select that rotation so we can see what it looks like. Okay. Let's select all of these and then just delete them all so that we can auto do that. In fact, let's do that with the scale too, because I don't want the scale animate it at all. I don't want to accidentally hit the scale. Let's just delete all of those and really only work with the position and then the ones that we actually want to work with right now. So let me keyframe all of the rotations here, X, Y, and Z. And then let's move this several frames before, probably right there. Let's change our angle a little bit so we can see more of an angle. And let's hit T here, R here, and let's select her body so we're on the right space. Just select the rotation. Let's rotate her so she's more in line. Let's move her body like this, right? Because we want her to kind of be flying into that flat position. And maybe a little bit like that. Maybe, oh, she's going crazy. Z. Move that change back. Let me see if it's actually changing those rotations when I do that. Yeah. Right there. Right there. Maybe a little less like that. Cool. And I'm gonna keyframe. Notice how all of a sudden, so she's gonna fly in. She's gonna kind of swoop into this position. And let me, right about here, let's copy and paste this keyframe, holding down Control, Shift, and drag. Move it to about there. And then we're going to move a few frames ahead, several frames ahead, and we're going to rotate her in the opposite direction. So if I do this, move this around, we want her to move this way towards the line that we have her going, right? Because she wants to fly in the, rotate in the direction she has to go to. I'm going to put this down, put this like this. Don't worry, I can move this look target, right? Because the target is, check that out. I can move it further away from her body, and we will be doing something with that in a minute. But I changed her rotation properties on there. Let's do that again because I had to move the look target. So go back to rotation. Let's move her body that way. Move it that way. Move it back out this way a little bit. Maybe not super drastic. Maybe a little bit like that. And then we want to keyframe those. Perfect. And so then she'll go off screen. So if I play it from here, if I move this more centered, zoom out a little bit, we're going to see her fly in. She's going to get to regular and then she's going to swoop out. And even we can make this, we can shorten these, right? Holding down Shift, and I can make it so it's more of a quick movement into that swooping. I think that's a little bit too fast. I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to move this one actually inwards, holding down Shift. All right, so that's not bad. Let's add some kind of a little bit of like a random, like a little bit of rotation here, right? Let's have her rotate back. Let's select her body again. I don't know why it does that. We're going to hit R for rotation. Let's move the camera a little bit here so we can see her at an angle. We're going to move her back a little bit, just tiny bit, maybe a little like that. And then we'll record. And then we're going to move a few frames ahead, and we'll move her body kind of like this and maybe a little bit more forward. Nothing drastic. And then we're going to record. And then we'll move a few more frames. She's going down. Let's point her up a little bit. record, move forward, kind of move back into close to like the original, maybe a little bit more this way now, record. And that should be good. And then we can take these these movements here and hold down shift and kind of move them to the side. Oh, I don't know what happened there. Undo, let's do it like this. Holding down shift, holding down shift. So we just kind of spread those out a little bit more. Holding down shift. Now let's play that back. Yeah, she's got a little bit of motion in there. Let's hit H on this so we can see what these curves look like and maybe kind of smooth them out a little bit differently here. Remember, actually, before I do that, it's good to keep them all on the same level. So maybe they all don't have to, maybe they can all kind of come towards each other a little bit more. In fact, that might happen a little bit too quickly. I think that my selection tool, I might have clicked something. I think it's just because I'm selecting on all of them. I don't know why I have that. Undo that. Select these again. Hit H. It just zoomed in on that for me. There we go. Let's move these in towards each other a little bit. Maybe so it's not so drastic. Let's undo that real quick. Let's see how it looks. In fact, let's make it a little more dramatic. So I'm going to hit R. Move her just back a little bit more. Record that. Remember, if you make the change, you got to record. Moving forward. Maybe moving her a little more back. Record. Then moving forward a little bit more like this. That's not bad. Record it. All right, cool. Let's save this. Let's watch her. Let's play back. All right, not bad. I might change that after I add the animation into her head, but you know, you guys understand the idea of this, right? Is that she's going to lean into that flight, then she's going to level out right about here. She's going to hover for a second, and she's going to waver a little bit. She's going to tilt back and forth a little bit, and then she's going to tilt in the direction that she's leaving. In fact, let me hit the Z position here, hit H. Let's go here, and I don't want her to go so far forward, so let's select that, holding down shift and kind of moving that back up. So she only slightly goes forward and off screen. I like that. So I saved it. So now let's animate, you know, we want her to be paying attention to the look target when she's flying around and hovering, but then we want her to notice something off screen, and we want her to then fly towards that. And so knowing that information, we gather from it, then we have to animate the look target. And something to keep in mind about animating like head motion, right? When we look at something, the motion of our head isn't slow and it's not in one direction. If you do that, you're going to creep people out, right? Like if you notice, like just look at something around in your office or in your room or something or wherever you're looking and just be conscious about how your head moves, right? It moves, it stops, it looks at something, you move again, you stop and you look at something, you move, you stop, you look at something. It's not like a slow, continuous panning, scanning of your room. If you're doing that, people might think there's something odd happening. And so we want to remember to keep the keyframe distance between each other when she's looking around short. Fast motion. We want it to be quick. So keep the distance in between short. I mean, you don't want it like only one frame apart, but you want it only a few. And so let's move to where she begins to hover. Let's move to where Eve begins to hover, right about here. Right, she's going to fly and she's going to look at something there, right about there. And let's click off of here. Let's select this look target. And we don't want motion, right? We want let's kind of move it up a little bit. Maybe, let's close this so I don't accidentally click on it. Move it up a little bit like that. Start there. And let us, really the only thing that we need to keyframe on here is the position. You're not going to rotate this. You're not going to scale it. It's just going to be the position. So I'm going to go in here and keyframe and record all of my position properties. And let's move it a few frames ahead. Right here. And let's move this, let's change the area this is. And I'm really going to only change at this moment kind of up or down, right? I kind of want her to look, oh, wrong position. Yeah. We just want her to look up this way at this object, like it moves up here. And so then I'm going to record that movement. And then I'm going to keyframe the initial coordinates. Then I moved ahead, changed the position, recorded that change. Let's move ahead a few more frames. And let's hold that position for a second here. So we're going to just keyframe again. Keyframe. So it's a nice hold. Notice how it's just staying still there. And then we're going to move ahead a few more keyframes. And we are going to change the position. So let's move it to the opposite, right? Let's move it to her. Oh, not there. Let's kind of move it over to her left. Yeah, just over to the left there. That's perfect. And maybe down a little bit, right? Or maybe up a little further. Yeah, just slightly up a little more. Then I'm going to keyframe those positions again. And then, let's see. The initial change, hold, change should be another hold. So we're going to move a few more keyframes. And we're going to hold those positions. We're going to re-keyframe there. And then when right before she looks like she's going to take off, let's look at her real quick and I want to look at that motion real quick, the body, where she's doing all her turning. Right about there is where she's going to notice something else and move away. So let's go back to this look target. Hit H on here so I can see all my keyframes. Kind of move back. Just holding down to, I can scale that and change. Okay, so right around 56 frames is where I'm going to make sure she sees something off screen and she's going to go for it. Okay, so she's looking at that thing coming in. It's going to change positions. She's going to hold that position looking at it. It's going to change positions there. She's going to look at it and it's going to hold. It's going to change again real quick. Let's move it one more time. Kind of back and down. We'll keyframe that. And then we're going to move it back over and it's going to, a few frames, and it's going to hold that position. And then right around that 56 mark, it is going to go off screen to where she will go. Keyframe that. So if I play it back, and if we move the way this looks, let's play this. Kind of happens fast, right? So let me select Eve's body so we can see all of that kind of motion that happens. And we really only want it happening during when she is hovering. Everything kind of happens very quickly, actually. So if I hold down Shift and not of the look target, let's grab just her body. And I hold down Shift and I select everything. I make sure that it's all selected here. I'm going to drag that out a little bit more so that I can I think if I hit Alt, no, Shift won't do it. Let's see, you know, you can Alt drag and let's just do it from, let's move her and find kind of right there. So I'm going to select everything from here and I'm just going to move it over, holding down Shift. So it slows it down a little bit. And then I'm going to move to where she is right about to leave there. And I'm going to select all of these. I'm going to drag these out just to get a little bit more time on there. Right, let's see how many. So 24. $120. I mean, obviously 96 is going to be the last one. So let's just drag these back so it's exactly like, it's going to be exactly 4 seconds. So she is going to, okay, not bad. Let me grab a few of these, bring them in a little bit here, holding down Shift. Undo that. Undo that. Wait, let me back up. I kind of like the speed that everything's happening except for this section here. So let me grab these. Really from, she should be, okay, so anything from here to about there. Cool, okay. So I'm just going to move this out a tiny bit. Not a lot, just a little bit. Holding down Shift. And then just kind of these in between, spreading them out a little bit more over time. To add a little bit more time into it, holding down Shift, just randomly grabbing them. Let's kind of see how this turns out. Holding down Shift. Okay, not bad. I like that. I think a little bit more it doesn't quite reach the 96 frames, I can just do this and grab it that way. There we go. And, you know, I can always shorten that all later. But for right now, I want to select that. Let's move to where she starts to hover. And that's where I want this look target to start. So I'm going to move this over. Oop. Do not do that. Let's move these. Holding down Shift. And then where she's done, right about there. Just adding a little bit more time in between these. Not bad. There's a lot of motion happening. I don't think I like all these rotational changes that happen in here. So I'm going to hit H, and I'm going to delete some of these. Like these ones, delete them. So she's going to go and up, kind of rotates a little bit there, and then goes back. Not bad. I'm going to take this one, holding down Shift and bring it in a little bit. Maybe this one. So it's not, it's more subtle, right? I want the subtlety of this. And she looks, and let's change the position so she's not moving up and down as much. H. Some of these just got unsynced when I was moving them. Actually, some of them, remember I deleted some and removed some from there, so let me see. I just don't want such a dramatic up and down, which is the Y value, right? So I'm just going to bring these in, smooth them out a little bit more, maybe line these up so all the motion's kind of happening around the same time. Move this out a little bit more. Move that there. Let's move around. Smooth this section. Let's watch this now. Okay, we got about a half an hour. There we go. Much better. Okay, and so I like how her head, in fact, I could probably increase the positions of this look target so that it's a little bit more of like a change, right? So if I hit H on here, I have the first one. She comes in, she's looking at it. It's going to move up and over. Let's, selecting the look target, not her. And let's move that over and up a little bit more. So it's a little bit more of a change there. And then remember, these have to be the same. So let's delete these. Oh, shoot. Let's just delete these ones. I think if I delete them separately, it will work. Delete, delete, delete. We don't even need the Z position. So I can just delete that fully. And then if we're looking here, I just want to copy, Control drag, holding down Shift to that spot. So I'm Gonna look, hold. Let's have these holding happen a little bit longer. Look, the look is gonna happen really quickly. So, look, look. Let's remove this, hit H again. Let's remove this third look over there. So I want her to fly in. She's gonna look here. I'm gonna move these back over. I'm gonna delete these ones. You know, and this is just kind of like the name of the game, right? Is just adjusting. Block it out, adjust it. She's going to look there. Then all of a sudden, she's going to change her view. She's going to come in, look, stare at it for a second, look, stare at that for a second. Let's move that over and down more. Re-keyframe. I don't need that Z in there. And then we don't want her, we want her to stay at the same. So then I'm going to move it, delete these, move it to about there, copy these ones, control drag, holding down shift, and hitting H again so it shows me everything. So look, stop, look, stop. We can try this one. Delete those last ones. We'll just add those in. Look, stop. So I'll just take these, control drag, because that's the hold. Actually, let's delete this. Here, and we're going to hold, look, stop, look, stop. Let's have this look just be all the way off frame now. And up. Now we'll keyframe that, and that'll be the last area that we have to keyframe. Then she flies off towards it, right? Okay, so I'm going to save that. That looks good. I would probably fine tune it a little bit more, but we're getting kind of close to time, so I don't want to continue messing around with this a ton. But make sure, like the biggest thing here, right, is making sure that there are these hold frames in between where the values stay the same, right? So that she can stop and look at something. And she stops and looks at it and like gives it a second to look at it, register it, looks at it, registers it. Think of it like a cat, right? In a fly. The cat's going to look at the fly. It's going to chatter a second. The fly's going to move. The cat's going to whip its head, right? And so I want you to think of that and make sure that these hold frames are in there, or else they won't be those quick, short head movements that we're looking for. And the big reason that we're able to keep the motion of the head separate from the body is because we kept this look target outside of Eve, right? Outside of that hierarchy. And so now's a good time to increment and save. And let's really quickly add some arm animations into here, right? Because her arms should be essentially, we want her arms to be back when she's like flying into the hovering position, and then kind of bringing them in while she's in that hovering position, and then bringing them out again when she's preparing to fly out. And so the big thing that you guys need to do is you need to remember to select one arm at a time, but animate them at the same time. And why do I say this? Let's grab her arms and hit R for rotation. And let me change this view. Watch what happens when I start to rotate her arms. They're rotating, but they're slightly different, right? And that's because our orientations aren't in the exact same spot that we would normally think they would. You think we line them up as much as we could to match them up, but I mean, it's still not exactly the same. And so because of that, we have to select one arm at a time, but just animate them at the same, like animating them at the same time, right? So while she's in this, so let's move to where she's in the hovering position real quick. Let's select her body. Let's zoom out of here and kind of, we'll go right about here because we'll get a little bit of a better view of her arms. Okay, and so while she is, I'll hit H there, we're going to select that right arm. And right about there, probably right about there, we're going to keyframe the rotations, all three values of her right arm, and then we're going to select her left arm and keyframe that rotation. And then we're going to move ahead, probably to about right there. And we are going to rotate this kind of back, right? So, oh, not that way. Let's move it kind of back like this, slightly out like this. Record. Same thing to this way, this arm. So we're going to select that right arm. We're going to move it to about the same position. Sometimes this is going to be where you're going to be moving your camera around a lot, or your view, so you can get them about in the same position. So again, moving it back, slightly out, so they're close, right? I want them to look about the same. Probably going to move this X value up a little bit more. Keyframe. All right, so she's going to be going in, kind of moving those. I'll probably move these keyframes over. Probably move these keyframes over so it doesn't take so long. It's kind of quick, so she'll zoom in. Actually, I'm going to go back with those few frames so it's not super fast. Shift. Maybe move all of it back slightly. I would maybe want to probably adjust more of like my motion, because there's like a jerking part right there where it moves too quick. Let me see if I can fix that real quick on the body. It's this part right here. There we go. Okay, save that. And then let me go to right about like right here, right? Maybe she's gonna right to where she's about done before she flies off. Probably right about here. I'm gonna select that and I'm gonna control drag, holding down shift. And then in between here, I'm gonna drag these back out. These need to be closer to where she gets into that hovering position. Nice hovering here. Let's move the okay, let's do, ooh, did I do the same for the left arm? I did not. Okay, back. Let's do this again. That moved the view. Nope. Z. Okay. She moves in smoothly. Okay, perfect. So then select that right arm. And I moved that to right about here. Holding down shift. I'm going to move that there. Select this arm. Grab this again. Holding down shift right here. Because we want it to happen at the same time, right? And then I also had moved this one. So we need to go back to that left arm. This is where you have to be very cognizant of what you're doing and really keeping track of what you've changed, right? Because I'm like, okay, the arms need to move at the same time. And so then we're going to go over to right about here, and we're going to re-keyframe that position of the right arm at the 0, and then select the left arm and re-keyframe that position. And then right in here, let's kind of right about here. She's here. Let's have her move them forward a little bit more, maybe out just slightly. So let's look at that. Maybe even out like this a little bit more. Let's do about the same. Maybe not so far out. Is that the left arm, or it had changed back? Okay, so this is a good position though for me to do. I'm selected on the light. Right arm. Out. Up. In a little bit. Maybe kind of out like that. Keyframe. Select the left arm. Let's copy that. Left arm. Not the right arm. The left arm. Okay. Left arm. There we go. Kind of out. Forward. Out like this. Move the camera. Make sure that looks about the same. You can probably move it. We can move it this way a little bit more. Let's bring that in a little bit more this way. There we go. Let's keyframe that. Then let's move to probably here. Holding down shift, I'm going to change the timing of that, but then that means I have to do it to the right arm. Holding down shift, change the timing so it's nice and smooth. Move here. Let's control drag so it stays the same. Left arm, select, control drag, shift, staying the same. We're going to move it to right here. This is where it's going to make the change, so it's going to go back to the original position, which is great. And then let's change it, so we want it to kind of go from the original position out to the position where it's zooming out. So let's take this one in the original position. We're going to hold on shift and we're going to bring that in. We're going to do the same for the right. Let me select that left arm and see where I did it at 60 frames. Holding down shift, we're going to drag that in. Save it. And then right about here, let's kind of move these back so that they're ready to kind of fly. Like zoom her out, right? And we might change that. I might change the timing of when that happens, but back, out. Let me move my camera around. See, kind of. That looks good. There we go. And we're going to keyframe this. Let's look at the right arm. Have this keyframed. Record that change we did. Save this. And let's do that. Let's change that, move it to right about there at 77 frames. So I'm going to drag, holding down shift, dragging. Do the same for the left arm. holding down shift and dragging. In fact, I want to keep this closer to this as well. So we'll put that at 68 frames. And we'll do the same for the right arm. Grab this, holding down shift at 68 frames. So then it's going to be quick. Nice. All right, cool. And so we can add a little bit of random movement. You guys can adjust the timing and stuff more or less, or have a little bit more time to play around with this. But let's add some slight random motion to her, like a wiggling, right? We used wiggle inside of After Effects. Inside of Cinema 4D, there's something very similar, but it's called a vibration tag, like a vibrate tag. And this will add random noise to an object, right? And so we want to right-click on the body up here, and under animation tags, there's one that says vibrate. We're going to select that tag. And now under that tag, you can enable the random motion to happen in either the position, scale, or rotation. So there's a few different ones you can select. And I'm going to select the position and the rotation here. But the key to this, right, is subtlety. You do not want a bunch of crazy motion happening all at once. And so I'm going to, amplitude is how many centimeters it's going to move at a time. And the frequency is how often it happens, right? Like how often in a second does it happen? How high, how like tall, like how much it changes on the graph is the amplitude. And so I'm going to type in definitely a lower, if I left it at, if it was like 100, 100, 100, watch what happens when I play this. Like, watch how crazy it's going to be. Just very random, shaky movement here. Still a lot of shake happening. We don't want all of that shake, right? We just want a little bit. We just want it to be subtle. Now, if you did a good job with this hover section in between, it might not really need this. So this is definitely an optional thing you can add in. But I'm going to put in here 10, 10, 10, and frequency very low, like 0.5. Like a half a second. It's going to move 10. So I can even drop this down. 0.3. It's actually happening quicker, I think. Let's change. Let me select that vibration tag again. We will do, yeah, let's leave it 10.3, and we'll do the same for the rotation. 10, 10, 10, 0.3. Let's see what that looks like. Not bad. Right? Probably less subtle. I'll probably do 5, 5, 5. It'll just depend on how you guys, your graphs and stuff look. Will depend on how much of this wiggle you really need to add in. I'm not adding in a lot. Like very, very subtle. Almost not very noticeable. And then, so now we've got the wiggle in. Let me think of, let's do a real quick review on what we did. Just remember, do not do the scale when you're adding that random wiggle. But a quick review of what we've done so far. We roughed out the position with Cappucino. It's wrong spelling. That's going to annoy me. And then we simplified and smoothed the curves. You can always search for simplify using the Shift C, right? If not, it is under the functions. Where's my cursor? It is under the functions tab there. Then I was going to run out of space anyways. Then we added the Z position. And then, what did we add? Added the rotation of the body. And then we animated the look target. And then animated the arms. And then we added random motion. And now let's add, like, we've got 10 more minutes left. Let's add some kind of final touches into here. Obviously, let's add a texture onto the background here. So I am going to just go into here. I'm going to type in plastic. Actually, no, let me create my own, because I want to add a reflection into here. So let's create one. New default material. Let's double click that. Let's change the color to like a blue. Under why is that not working again? It's not under there. There we go. Cool. Yeah, purple, whatever. That works for me. But let's go into the reflectance tab, and we're going to add some reflection here. We're going to add the Beckman reflection, which is like obviously way too much reflection. In fact, let me undo that, and let's drop this material onto our area so that you guys can see what I mean. So then all of a sudden, when I add in this Beckman reflection, it's going to be like obviously like chrome, right? And we don't need that. We want it to be way, way lower there. So we're going to probably drop it down to 13%, turning down that reflection. And then let's also turn down the strength. We don't need it to be super reflective like that. Like maybe 10%. Let's look at the, I want to get a good reflection of Eve in the material. Let me look now. Let's look at that interactive render viewer. There we go. We're getting a good reflection of her in there. Not bad, not bad. And we're getting kind of some banding around the studio with that. And so let me, the quickest way actually to do this is to drop this into a subdivision. Not the entire thing, just the backdrop. And so then when I hit that, it's going to smooth that out a little bit. Also, possibly taking this, let's remove this protection tag on here so we can move some stuff around. And I'm going to take this backdrop, the subdivision surface, I'm going to move that backwards a little bit. So, and then increase this curve so it's not so, so that the curve is not so, come on now. Increase the rounding on it so that I don't get that really strong highlight on there. Let's increase it to like 1500. Let's the depth to 3000. So it's out there, and the width to like 8000. Not 80, but 8. And then we can move our camera a little bit. Get a good camera angle on Eve. Also, I don't want to see a bunch of the background. I don't want to see outside of the background there. That's not bad. Let's take the subdivision surface and like increase it. Getting close on time here. And then maybe take this and now let's see if that normal. Let's look here. Interactive render viewer. Come on, buddy. And there's a couple of things I want to talk to you guys about the rendering before we do it. Okay, a little bit better. There's still banding in the back. Smoothing out that roughness. Or like increasing the roughness quite a bit will help with that like super hard reflection in the back that I was getting. That looks a little bit better. But now we've like lost her reflection in there. So let me drop this roughness down. Increase that reflection strength. It has to do with the reflection of the world, like the photo studio in there. So you guys can play around with this, but I want to, you guys can have a little bit of a reflection there. It looks a little nicer. And then we can just like take this, her roughness, and like decrease it even more in case you guys don't want to have like a really rough, like you want her to be nice and smooth. And then we can, let's add a camera into here, right? So where's a good angle on her? We can always change the focal length. Let's look. I want to play this. She's going to zoom in. I want her to be off screen, so I'm going to move this a little bit more that way. She's going to fly in screen. She's going to hover. She's going to look. And then she's going to fly off screen. Okay, so this is a good camera angle for me. I am going to add a camera in here. I am going to be looking through the camera. And then I'm going to change the focal length down here from 35 to 55, which is, or 50, which is like the normal angle, like that's a normal focal length for a human eye, right? And so that's going to zoom in on there for me. So she's going to fly into the scene, she's going to look, and then she's going to zoom off. And that's just a really nice way to adjust that framing without, like, even if you see a little bit of stuff on the side. And so, let's go to the render settings here. So if you want these really nice reflections into in your project when you render it out, like when I bring her into view here, ooh, does she cut through? She does not, I do not believe. I think she just, let me not look through my camera and move down. Oop, did not want to do that. Not look through my camera and move down. She does go through the floor. So then I want to look through my camera. I moved something. Let's delete this camera. I'm gonna refocus where I want to be. Let's replay her flying into here. Okay. She's gonna fly in, look around. Let's, because she's centered, I'm gonna move it over this way. Okay, that's good. We're gonna add that camera. we're going to look through the camera. We're going to update that focal length to 50 as a normal lens. And then I want to make sure I grab this studio backdrop and drop it down to where she's not through the floor there. So I just want to bring that studio backdrop down. Drop it down low. There we go. Now she should not go through it at all. My computer's chugging along because there's a lot of... Right, she's shiny now. Okay. And then we should be getting a good reflection in here. Once I hit this thing. Now, if you're using this, which I would want to increase the reflectance on here, right? When you're, if you want a nice reflection in here, once we, let me go to the viewport real quick. Settings, so Shift V for viewport settings. And under the effects, you want to make sure that view. Reflections, you want to make sure reflections are turned on, right? Reflections. And I think they've changed it. Oh, okay. If you're rendering in the viewport renderer, right, which is not going to give you very good reflections, but the viewport renderer is, and you want to make sure that under the filter, you've got geometry only clicked on, right? And then you'll do all your save stuff. Now, this is inherently quicker to render it out, but you're not going to get really nice reflections in this. And so in order to get those reflections, just some forced reflections in there, which aren't the best, but there's something, under your viewport settings, if you hit Shift V, go to your effects and unfurl the reflections section, you have to tick this little one on, screen space local reflections. And once you do that, it'll force them into your render. Now, if you have when do you use that viewport render? If your computer's chugging along really slowly and you're crunched for time, right? If you wait until the last minute to do this, you're going to end up rendering in your viewport renderer, I guarantee it. If you do this ahead of time and you get this done with enough time, render it inside of the physical renderer, right? And if you do the physical renderer, then it's going to show all of those nice reflections for you. And so, you know, if you want that, if you want it to look really nice, the other thing is if you render it in the physical renderer, it's not going to show this face on the other side of her head. If you render it in the viewport renderer, it will show up on the other side of her head. So that's just something to remember. And then, just take your time with it and do it ahead of time, and you can get these you can render it out with these really nice reflections. So render this into an image sequence, a PNG. Remember to, if you're in the viewport renderer, mark on geometry only, and then go into your viewport settings, and make sure under reflections you have screen space local reflections turned on. And then you're going to place it inside of After Effects and you're going to render it out with the media encoder. And so that is how you animate Eve. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, let me know. Now, this does not, again, quickly here, when rendering this out, there is a lot of space on this timeline that is not used up. So under your save output here, you only have to render it to a few frames after she flies off the screen, right? So you can just do manual, and then you can do a range, like from, I think mine ends at like right there, which is 96 frames. So I would only render out 96 frames, right? Or 96, 97, however many. And that way you don't have a bunch of space at the end of your video. So something else to think about. But if you guys have any more questions, let me know. If you guys want to watch a different version of it, there's Casey's up on there as well. other than that, I hope you guys have a good night. I'm excited to see these. I'll catch up on grading this weekend. So if you got something turned in that I haven't graded yet, keep an eye out for that, and I'll give you feedback on your stuff. So have a good night, you guys, and I will